This is a presentation on the psychoactive properties of hops by Stephanie Whitlock and Josh Pentek. What is hops? Hops is a derivative from the plant Humulus lupulus. It is the dry flowering part that is commonly used in brewing beer. The word hops comes from the Anglo-Saxon word hoppen, which means to climb. Although hops are commonly used in brewing beer, they also have been linked to some health benefits with limited research. It has been linked to improving anxiety, sleep disorders, and insomnia. Finally, the bitter flavor of hops comes from the chemicals that are used in hops that will be described later in this presentation. The history of hops begins in 736 CE in Bavaria, Germany. The mentioning of hops was in a monastery document. In the 13th to 14th century Norway, the creation of hops was done near monasteries and big households. But the smaller scale creation of hops was already common in smaller areas of the world. In Kent, England, in around 1970, large amounts of the plant's pollen was found in a sentry boat and was only in the boat. There was none found in the soil near the boat where the boat had gone aground. The discovering of this hops showed that the plant was already common in England at the time. From the 13th to 15th century, hops was actually prohibited in Europe, not because of any real reasons, but because the kings in that time period did not like the taste of beer made with hops, so naturally they banned it. Hops was first commercially prepared in North America beginning in 1648, but never really hit its stride until the 19th century. Massachusetts was the first state known to produce beer with hops in it. The traditional uses for hops was actually very vast. Hops was actually used for many different things traditionally before it was used for beer. Records have shown that it was used for novel issues including dyeing hair, deodorant, making fabric and paper, but it was also used as a treatment for several different diseases of the time, including leprosy, fever, and GI issues. Finally, it was also used for getting rid of impurities in blood. So obviously, back in that time, they didn't know that medicine would exist, so they figured that they would use hops to try to get rid of the impurities in the blood.
Where does hops grow? Hops grows in the Pacific Northwest part of the United States. The states are Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. Washington produces the most hops in the United States. It produces over 69% of hops in the country. How is hops grown? Hops needs to be planted in the spring where there is no more snow or frost seen. Seeds need to be planted about 7 to 8 feet apart from each other because of the new vines that hops produce. The cones will then grow up high, about 7 to 8 feet tall, from the vines. After the cones come through, then they are ready to be picked.
Hops is used in multiple different ways. The most common use that we immediately think of when we think of hops is used in beer. But hops is also used in cooking as a seasoning or a flavoring. We know that hops gives beer its bitter taste, which means that if adding it to food, the hops will be able to offset a sweet or salty flavor. Also, hops can be used in non-alcoholic drinks the same way that it would be used in cooking to make them a tad bitter. If you have a super sweet drink and you want to make it less sweet, you could add hops to it. Finally, as stated before, hops can be used as a soothing, anti-inflammatory topical makeup or skin product.
Hops active chemicals. It is usually combined with valerian, lemon balm, passion flower, skullcap, and kava. The main active chemicals of hops are lupulone, humulone, and bitter acids. These active chemicals will most likely bind to serotonin and melatonin receptors.
Hops has many different effects on our bodies. First of all, the study done by Hirth et al. Found that the Humulus lupulus plant has anti-inflammatory and antioxidative properties on human keratinocytes, which are human skin cells that produce keratin. The researchers found that hydrocortisone acetate was released in larger amounts with the water in oil lotion that had Humulus lupulus in it, which confirmed that the topical use of Humulus lupulus has the anti-inflammatory and antioxidative properties. There hasn't been enough research to prove that there are positive effects on sleep and anxiety, but there has been some done. Prenolated flavonoids are chemical compounds that provide antimicrobial protection against diseases, and hops has been shown to also provide these positive effects on our body through xanthohumol.
Adverse effects. Effects include sleepiness, drowsiness, And then these are the most common ones because it helps with insomnia and anxiety.
Hops is regarded as generally safe in small amounts for our body. Adults can take from 600 milligrams to 1200 milligrams per day, and that is still a safe amount. Although it's recommended that 50 to 300 milligrams are taken per day, but they can also be typically combined with other herbs like valerian, chamomile, and passion flower. If it's being combined with other herbs, the recommended dosage is 300 to 1000 milligrams per day.
Overdose and dependency. There is no information about overdose in humans and has not happened yet. However, it is very toxic to dogs. The suggested use amount is when hops is dried is 1.5 to 2 grams and combined with valerian is 60 milligrams.